Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi.
We've got a little unusual setup to the show today. We've got, due to the giant commitment Nebraska landed last night from a guy you're a little bit familiar with. I would think he might be a blood relative if you guys didn't look so similar.
Yeah, we sister sledge, man. We are family. He'll never be able to get rid of me now. I'm sure he loves that.
Oh yeah, you're. I wonder how. Maybe that's why it took him a little bit longer to commit. Was
it's like, man, that damn Coach B. God, I can't get away from that dude.
If you didn't hear kind of late last night, Christian Jones commits to Nebraska, the highest ranked recruit in the state for class of 2025. And Shane, do we have him?
Yes.
All right, we are joined by Christian Jones now, the Omaha West Side linebacker. Christian, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
8-Ball, good morning, man. How are you?
Good, Coach. How you doing?
I'm good. Are you on Bluetooth? Are we practicing hands-free? What are we doing?
No, hand to ear.
Oh, you're rocking it old school. I like it.
How you been, man? I know it was a busy night for you. It was a long time coming. How do you feel now that it's over?
No, it's definitely kind of some, relief in a way, I would say. But, we still got the season ahead of us.
Yeah.
We're ready to go get the state championship.
Listen, the most important question, I'll let Ravi get to you in a second, but are you still going to help me take down my Christmas lights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, because
don't tell anyone.
Yeah, those jokers might be up all year if you don't.
Christian, tell him he's got a piece of NIL money for that now.
No, he's fine. I had to be getting money from him. Like,
Coach Benning's a great cook. So.
Oh, okay. I get it. It's a little trade there. I get it. No, that works.
Yeah.
So walk us through the process, man. I tell people all the time, you're just really thoughtful, right? Like just you think about everything. You're a big contingency plan guy. Like I'm sure people were getting impatient, but it didn't bother you at all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would say, I've been doing this, I would say, almost 4 years now. And so I've kind of seen what the behind the scenes of most college programs are. And I kind of just really wanted to gather all that data. And I would say, making that decision yesterday was kind of the final moment where I, kind of figured out, okay, I've seen Nebraska kind of struggle for 3 years. And then last year, they're kind of got like on this wave of, okay, they could go in the right direction. And, the CU game, when I saw, Colorado honestly tap out, I was like, okay, I want to be a part of this. They're not, I don't like when people talk. I want them to actually see it. I want them to actually do it. And that's kind of the big thing that I saw was, Coach Rule said he's going to do it, and he did it. And so he's a man of his word, and I'm very big on that. So I'd say that's why I chose Nebraska, because Coach Rule said he's going to do something, and he did it.
Those guys had to work, didn't they? This wasn't like, I know some people may say, oh, it was a foregone conclusion, blah, blah, blah. But after that first meeting when they brought the whole infantry last year, I was like, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like you, right? Do you remember those days?
Yeah, I remember that very vividly.
So, like,
I don't think people understand how close it was with Oklahoma. This whole summer, I was ready to pull the trigger and go to Oklahoma.
That was pretty cool, though, too, because when I talked to you at practice, you didn't want to say anything until you talked to Coach Venables. I thought, I mean, I know you well enough to know that's something you would do, but I felt like that was pretty impressive.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for Coach Venables. I mean, he's showed great hospitality. He's a great coach. I mean, really, like, probably one of the best coaches I've been around. His energy is very unique. Like, you just want to be around the guy. He is just like the definition of a player coach. And, he's just the good bridge you don't want to burn. So I wanted to make sure he knew before anyone else.
Christian, what was it about Oklahoma that was so tempting to you, being an in-state kid, that you're like, oh man, that they're actually making this really hard on me?
Yeah, Coach Alley, their DC right now is a very, very good DC, and they're, Oklahoma's just like linebacker school. Like they just love linebackers, and their whole defense is made for linebackers, and that was very tempting. I would say they're kind of star player right now is Danny Stutzman, and he kind of gets all the love, and it's really built around the linebacker more so than quarterback in a way. So that was tempting, and Coach Venables has a very, very strong culture there as well, and I'm a big culture guy because I know that's how you win games. Yeah. So that was tempting. That was hard.
Yeah, your evolution has been incredible, right? You went from wanting to kill me, and in year one, kind of coming in as a rush the passer guy to, man, your portfolio is pretty full, man. You can do a lot of different things. What does Nebraska want you to do?
Yeah, I think depending on how much weight I put on, I would say I'm a go back and forth from that Will and Mike position.
Yeah.
And honestly, probably to see which one I pick up fastest, I would say would be the deciding factor as well.
You know what's funny? I didn't think about this because I don't think about this at the time, but remember, I would say things like, yeah, technically and fundamentally and even your football verbiage, you're going to be way ahead of guys in college coming in as freshmen. Did you think it was going to be useful at the University of Nebraska? Because now that's kind of hitting me like, I mean, we were just talking about gloves and Oklahoma gloves like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, do you think about that? Like your football acumen is at a high level.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's normal. I mean, we talk at such a high level at practice, and we're just that's kind of just our environment.
Yeah.
I would say is just high level thinking of football. And I think we just have great coaches that are able to break it down so simple, like just so complex things. You guys are able to break it down so simple. So now I can just understand it at a very high level and be able to teach it. I'd say,
yeah.
I'm teaching my dad stuff now. Like, oh, I didn't even know that. I wish I knew that in college. Like, how'd you learn that?
Christian, is there something that you're kind of looking forward to the most about being part of this Nebraska program?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say playing in front of all the fans at Memorial. I think that's a lifetime experience, a dream of most Nebraska kids, and I'm going to be able to live it out. So I'm very grateful just to have that opportunity.
I know I got to let you get to offensive meetings because I certainly don't want Coach Sikora pissed at me. But Coach Dvorak, I'm a huge fan. You and I did not talk in depth at all this whole process about specifics. But I think now it's safe to say, like, we're both pretty big Dvorak fans.
Oh, yeah. I love Coach Rob.
He's something else, isn't he?
He's a very – like, when I talk to people, I was like, is he like a hard coach? Like, does he yell or anything? He would go like, no, he just says he's disappointed. I was like, okay, I can get behind that.
Oh, man, that's funny. Well, Christian, congratulations on your commitment. I know a lot of Nebraska fans around the state are thrilled that you are a part of the class now, and we'll enjoy watching you for the rest of your senior year at Westside.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon.
See you, Coach.
That is Christian Jones, the newest member of Nebraska's 2025 recruiting class.
That's my dude.
And linebacker on DB's defense there.
Yeah, he can play outside. He can play inside.
Where do you see him at Nebraska?
I think he's so
like John Bullock role.
Yeah. He's Bullocky, and I think the thing about him is right now he's probably about 235.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see him being 235, but it's going to look a lot different.
Right.
He had the bad quad. He missed the last quarter of track. I wouldn't say he's in elite level fitness shape. Like his endurance is incredible.
But his body's going to look different.
His body's going to change because he grew so much over a little bit of time. He played last year roughly a smidge under 210.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 25 pounds he's carrying that I don't think he loves, but we're learning to manage it. And his dad said, after Columbus, he said, I think we're going to knock about 12, 15 pounds off of him. Now Nebraska will put it right back on, but it will
In the
look
best way
it
possible.
will look different. And I think he's an inside guy for sure.
I mean,
I could see him growing into a jack.
Yeah.
But
well, that's kind of what I was wondering. Like you mentioned he's kind of a pass rush guy when you got him.
He is a very natural pass rusher.
And he is explosive athletically.
I'm just telling you, like, we've been through it. He's
like, if you could get him to like 250 at a good 250 or 240 even, at a good 240, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
As a rusher.
He is, and he likes to train.
Can you see him as like a James Williams almost?
Maybe.
Or
maybe
his frame's a little bigger.
He doesn't have any problems. I mean, knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's never missed a practice.
Yeah.
He's never missed a practice.
That's impressive.
It's incredible.
I mean, you've had him for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's football, right?
And I mean that.
Like,
No,
I know, you tell me.
Yeah. He's bendy. He puts his body in these situations where he's not caught off guard by he stresses his body in terms of how he stretches, what he does with his tendons, his ankles. I mean, his dad's a chiropractor, so his license plate is backbreaker. So it's like, but it was a heck of a process.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it. I know that off air you were not sure where he was going.
I know. It's like
honestly, it kind of reminded me of how the process played out with Caleb.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I mean, listen, I'm here if these guys need to talk to me, but I'm not pushing and I appreciate, honestly, because it'd be really easy for you with the relationship you have with Nebraska staff to kind of just push those guys and be like, hey, trust me. And they'd probably listen because they do trust you, right? It'd be really easy. And maybe some Nebraska fans are like, DB, why don't you do that? But I mean, it's still worked. This worked out for the staff pretty well. And because they get buy-in directly from the guys, and it's not like somebody pushed them in that direction, it's real buy-in.
No, I will 100% say out loud, and I think even CJ knows this, I would definitely talk to Nebraska about how to talk to him.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
yeah. You give him the roadmap.
Make no mistake about that, right? But I would do that with
anybody.
Yeah, right. I remember I desperately wanting them to go back and make a run at Teddy and Anthony.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do it like this. Like, this is they don't want to be a part of what we're doing. That ship sailed. I'm like, can you just make one more run? That's kind of what I was, because that would have been like the
100%
the ultimate, right? To have them,
to me, that's
CJ, Caleb,
one of the only misses for the staff in terms of in-state guys that I really liked. That I'm like, I wish they would have got there with those guys.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, it's just for him, that process is, he's just really, really, really thoughtful.
I'm really interested to see,
even yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. We're playing a team where they always pull something different out. Sometimes last year it wasn't really midline, but they had some QB run game stuff. They came back to like veer and trap. They hadn't really shown it all year, but with Coach Pete, like, that stuff's always in the repertoire. So he's asking yesterday during our defensive install, he says, hey, last year they hurt us with X, Y, and Z. Do you think they'll come back with that? Because we haven't seen it on film. And I'm like, it's in my head. I admire that, right?
Yeah.
Because he's thinking ahead. And remember, he's always thinking about each scenario. Like, sometimes it's to his.
That sometimes you gotta get out of.
He's gotta get it. Like, just trust it and go.
Yeah.
But that is exactly how he's always thinking about the outcome.
Which you've talked about that with Christian before, where in previous years you would have liked to see a little bit more on tape, considering his physical gifts.
Turn him loose. Like, I wanted him to have. He's a guy that knows enough and is explosive enough to be a factor on every play.
That's kind of why I compared him to Bullock.
Right. But sometimes he doesn't always show up but we do ask him to do. I mean, just come watch. Like, he has to do a lot of different things.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he has to do a lot of different things.
The reason I kind of compare him to Bullock is obviously a high level athlete that I know the coaching staff and you have both talked about, hey, if they can get him to play to that level of athleticism, then he's going to be a monster. And then what did we see on Saturday? We see John Bullock running around, taking people's heads off and being just super disruptive for Colorado. That's, I think, kind of the progression I'd like to see, whether it's at the same spot as Bullock or not, or wherever else on the defense, to see them kind of unlock that athleticism so he plays as freaky as he actually is.
Yeah, I want some of the backstory to when they came to Westside, and I told you it wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it was, and there were times it was awkward, and Coach Lamanji kind of saved the day by breaking a little bit of the. It wasn't tension; it just
like awkwardness.
It was very awkward.
Yeah,
it's very awkward, and so we're walking to the gym after school, and we're just trying to desperately break the ice.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, let's play some horse. Let's play a little pickup. Let's do something, because we were waiting for the basketball team to come out and practice, because they wanted to see Caleb too. And I just was thinking, yeah, let's break this up a little bit. And just going behind the scenes and talking to Coach Dvorak and kind of he's just different. He should have probably been born in the 70s. He's a really old soul, super sarcastic. I mean, the other day at practice, he was the player I was talking. Did I tell you about chemtrails?
Yeah.
He was the guy. He was the player I was talking about.
That would have been my guess.
He was giving me like the backstory on like chemtrails, and I just was like, "It's Monday. It's Memorial Day.
What are we talking
what are we doing?
What are we
Look
talking
up
about?
in the sky. 7 o'clock. I was like, but that's just who he is. He's a deep level thinker, and that's how he plays the game. So they got a good one.
Yeah, that's exciting. I know that'll be a big one for Nebraska. All 3 years Coach Rule's been here, they've gotten the number 1 ranked player in the state.
Not bad.
So that's a good track record. We'd like to see him keep up.
And we'll get into this with Coach Rule's tenor at the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little surly yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, don't be a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Don't be a special teams guy.
Yeah. Because he watched some tape that he was like, hey,
he's pissed.
We got some work to do, guys.
Yeah. And I told Sharp, we were doing it was actually Benny Mack. We were doing the 5th quarter.
Yeah.
I said, the good thing about this game is there's so much that he's going to stay dialed.
That was honestly, I came away from that game as much as I wanted blood, as much as I wanted 42, 49, 56.
Is it Daniel Day-Lewis?
There will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've abandoned my shot. Sorry.
It's just childish.
I mean, sure.
It's
fine.
It's clumped up at the bottom.
You gotta get that spark in. It's all good. It was honestly kind of the perfect way for that game to play out, because you had obviously a big enough win to feel good about, right? You got off to a fast start, so there was not a ton of stress level involved for the fan base. You got to see some really good football early, especially from the defense. You got to see some power running game, but I don't think there is a soul on that coaching staff or on that team that's going to walk away from that being like, oh, our bleep don't stink.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of the perfect game. It's kind of the learning, the catalyst for more learning and coaching without having to take an L, right? You'd much rather be Nebraska this week than Notre Dame trying to figure out and trying to teach off of a Northern Illinois loss. You're like, oh no, we beat the hell out of them, and they're still a lot better that we can be.
Yeah, because where I was going with that is, just his conviction, and I mean, he just stays on the gas. And I remember after they all came to Westside, like I said, it was fairly awkward, and I would see Coach Rule. This was a couple months later.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, I haven't talked to him since. And you know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
Now it's funny.
That was like last spring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had some other side conversations with some of the other assistants.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you like a year ago, there's this thing about Coach Rule where, and I talk about things that I want out of my own person, like what draws me.
Mhm.
He has this ability to let you know that he's willing to walk away,
Yes.
but he still cares.
Yeah.
He has kind of mastered that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, cool.
It's kind of the I'm not gonna beg.
I'm not, and I love it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it kind of just, it lets you know.
It's a self-assuredness.
Yeah.
It's like, would we love to have Christian Jones? Absolutely.
Would I be the best for him? Yes, I would. But
But
if he doesn't want that,
that's okay.
that's okay.
Yeah. I'm not gonna beg.
So I just, and he'll put it out there.
Yeah.
You know, hey, listen, man, do you know how we turn this around? And there's this, hey, do you know how we turn this around?
Mhm.
We need players like you, like you. We need the Christian Jones of the world.
Mhm.
And it didn't elicit the dialogue going forward.
And you thought it might?
Do you remember me coming after that? And I'm like, I was distraught.
Yeah. Because you're like, I don't think he's coming.
I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, this might be a long process.
What are we gonna do? And they brought listen, everybody, the whole Calvary.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Bo, everybody?
Well, I'm talking to T Knight, and it's like,
Speaking of T Knighton, I might have a new man crush on the coach staff.
you low key wanted that one to begin with.
Yes, I did. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk.
He's the deal.
We're going to talk to Tom Dienhart. He covers Purdue for On 3. We're going to talk to Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7, and we're going to talk to Ryan Clarke. He covers Oregon for the Oregonian. All that and more coming up on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Thought the beat was going to drop a little bit faster on that one.
No, so I know sometimes people think like, oh man, just vouching. No, just watching football. I told you, said this a couple times yesterday. I could see what Nebraska was trying to do on the perimeter. Like there were plays to be made. What did I say? They just were getting whipped.
Yeah,
on the outside.
The receivers on defensive backs.
I said, Colorado has good players too. Travis Hunter, those corners, those are NFL corners, and they were winning on the perimeter.
And
and I said, oh, those plays are a block or two away from going. Like it wasn't like, hey, let's take the air out of the ball.
No,
the statistical yardage wasn't great, but I went through the numbers. Right, 19 snaps. 9 minutes and 30 seconds of time of possession. 9 carries for 51 yards. 7 of 10 passing for 44 yards. With the 3 penalties for 28, it's like I didn't get the hand wringing and consternation because at some point, and we're not there yet. But I am willing to listen to. Well, don't call things they can't execute because sometimes you get that when people want to push back. Well, if they can't execute it, why do you run it? We're still talking about basic offense here. We're just talking about perimeter blocking. And listen, you said it earlier. Don't play on the special teams. Don't be a wide receiver. In particular, you may not want to be Coach McGuire right now. Like he's an equal opportunity stay on the gas guy, but it doesn't mean Coach McGuire isn't good at his job. The receivers don't get to this point where we're gushing about the wideouts without McGuire. Yeah. So it's not personal. It's business, and there's no better week than to take the business approach than this one.
Well, and it's that thing we talk about where he doesn't just hold players accountable too. Like it's on the coaching staff also. The coaching staff has to be held accountable when their guys don't execute. He's going to hold his position group accountable for when they don't execute. Like that's what this coaching staff does is they hold people accountable, and he's going to tell you he's pretty honest with us. I mean, there's some stuff he doesn't tell us, but he's pretty open about, hey, wasn't happy about this. Yeah. I didn't like the officiating, and I don't think the Big 12 can find me. The special teams was the worst
I didn't agree with the targeting call either. Yeah. I didn't agree with it real time.
It was. I didn't agree with a lot of the calls that made in the second half, but it was.
He did let you know though. He rarely win appeals.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm fully expecting Bayer not to be playing in the first half. That's just how it goes.
And how was Eights not targeting? But Woods was.
I have no idea. How was there not a roughing the passer call on
That was kind of weird because
On-
they were very, very similar tackles.
Yeah, 100%. There was no rhyme or reason for seemingly any of it. Let's get to Steve. Well, actually, Stephen Young on the Hurrdat hotline. What's up, Stephen?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, that's good news about your about the recruit for Nebraska.
I didn't want to have to choke him. That's good. I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's always a delicate task leading people that you care about.
Yep.
You know, to go without taking away their personal ability to make that action.
100%.
What do you got for us, Stephen?
Couple of things coming out of the weekend. Boy, it sure seemed like, particularly in the first half, there were an awful lot of desperation ankle tackles on the part of Colorado there that just saved some really big plays.
Yeah, I think that's right, Stephen. I think they were pretty close to housing a couple more of those.
Yeah, a couple of ankle tackles. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There was 2 out on the perimeter. On quick
There's
game.
one with
and then
Dowdell in the
one with
hole.
Dowdell
Yeah.
where he'd have hit his head on the goalpost.
Oh, there were a couple when they were going up the middle there where like Colorado just reached out and grabbed a shoelace and managed to do it.
They played
Hey,
played fairly physical defense.
They really did.
They did, and particularly after they had made an adjustment there, halfway through the second quarter,
Correct.
where they started really being aggressive on their blitz.
Correct.
And I'm not part of the Big Red Conspiracy Brigade about the refs. I actually think that those changes by Colorado may have played a part in all of a sudden the Nebraska players having to struggle a little bit with some things they weren't necessarily prepared to see.
Stephen, appreciate the call.
Well, go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, you got more? Okay, go ahead.
One other thing real quick. I don't know if you guys saw the Sports Illustrated article from yesterday. I know we didn't want to be Nebraska nice, but if it's true that we had Nebraska fans throwing racial slurs at Colorado, I think we need to catch those guys and lower the boom.
Yeah, I did not see that piece to read. I appreciate the call, Stephen, but I did.
I heard on
that
social media.
That's where I saw it.
Which obviously is never a good idea. Like, let's just be better than that. There's a difference between being Nebraska nice and being dumbasses.
Yeah.
So let's try and walk that line a little bit better.
100%.
That's all I got. I mean,
hashtag be better.
Yeah, it's not that hard when the bar is not saying racial slurs. That's a pretty low bar to clear. Let's try and work on that, guys. Also, plenty of diversity on Nebraska's team as well. So you throw racial slurs at the other team, guess what? Your team's probably going to hear it too. They feel some kind of way about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd like to kind of delve into that a little more, but it's going to be, if it gets down into he said, she said, then that's the part I don't like. But
yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing to prove, obviously, in any situation where you don't have either video footage or whatever. But even if they don't catch and lower the boom, which is obviously deserved, just be better, guys. Everybody, just be a little bit better. There's one thing about, I like to be as petty as anybody, but
Ravi Lulla here for petty.
There's a difference between being petty and throwing slurs out at people. So.
RAL here for petty. Shane, can you play clip? Can you play clip 6 for me, please? Speaking of footage, and it's not he said, she said, but man, it sure is subjective. Shane, clip 6, please.
Yeah. I'm probably more of like I'm not very political, libertarian when it comes to these things. I like less rules. So I like less structure. Is that the right thing? I don't know. Thank you. Okay, good. The difference in the NFL is you get a FedEx on Friday saying, it wasn't even a penalty, but you owe them $40,000, so, you have to go back to the onset of it, right? When they first put the targeting rules in, people were laying people out and dancing over them. So I think a lot of it's been done. So I don't know, though. I mean, if a guy does truly target with intent, then the punishment's severe enough that you don't. So I think it's legislated a lot of it out. Now we're kind of getting sometimes, I think, nitpicky about, this or this. It's hard to play defense. It's hard to play defense these days.
It is hard to play defense.
It was such a I'm standing on that business, and I know I got pushback from my buddy Mr. Severe, but we talked about it again on Sunday afternoon when I was leaving Channel 7. I was like, number one, I hated the mechanics of the play.
Mm-hmm.
The whole I didn't like any of it.
You've got to give a little bit of grace when the defensive player and the offensive player make the move that lead to the situation at the exact same time. Or if the defensive player makes his move even before, like, you can make the argument that Bayer started into his tackle before Shadur started into his slide.
Yeah.
At that point, what are you supposed to do? There was obviously no intent. Like, it's not that hard. You can watch the tape and see it. It's not that hard. Got to be better. Hey, everybody's got to be a little bit better.
Hashtag be better.
That's the theme this morning.
Sounds like a be better tweet. Should we be better?
We should be better.
Just be better.
Who I'm sure is going to be better here in just a minute is Tom Dienhart covering Purdue for On 3. We will talk to him. Check out the Boilermakers coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're joined now by Tom Dienhart. He covers Purdue football for On 3. Tom, how are you this morning?
Doing good. We're all eagerly anticipating Notre Dame's arrival.
Hey, so, okay, we can kind of chuckle, but Purdue has they've been a thorn. They just have, like, this series it is what it is. Like, have you allowed yourself to believe there have been worst case scenarios in which Notre Dame has come to town?
Yeah, I can't imagine they've ever come here off getting beat as a 28.5-point favorite. Maybe they have. They played every year from like 1946 to 2014, and the series was stopped on an annual basis. Here they are again for about 4 years. Purdue's got them. Yeah, that's sort of where the football program earned that reputation, spoiler makers. Over the years, they knocked off some highly ranked Notre Dame teams. Now, this obviously is still a ranked Notre Dame team. How good it is, who knows, but it's still ranked, and it'd be a huge win for Purdue guys. And for Ryan Walters, I asked him yesterday. He told me in the presser this was a game he had circled. He couldn't deny that. No shocker there, but at least he admitted it. He knows the stakes here. Be a nice signature win for his young career, and certainly, guys, be a huge win for what he's trying to build here in the September. That's probably going to make or break Purdue's hopes, guys. And that September, of course, concludes September 28th versus the mighty Cornhuskers coming, which is going to be another big game for both programs.
Yeah, Tom, I'm curious how you feel about having the one game against Indiana State, the bye week, and then having such a jump up in level of competition against Notre Dame. It's kind of an odd setup to start their season.
Mm-hmm. It is. I guess having 2 weeks to prepare, I think Walters was happy about that. But you like a little bit more, testing before you jump in the deep end of the pool, so to speak. But it is what it is. It essentially was an exhibition game against Indiana State on August 31st, 49-0. Here we are 2 weeks later. The Irish are strolling into town for the first time since 2013. So we'll see. You can spin it a lot of ways. I think Purdue kept some things under its hat against ISU. We'll see if they have any new wrinkles, guys. It's going to be a fun matchup.
So what do you think you've learned? It's such a small sample size, but defensively, in terms of giving up big plays, you had a long way to go. Is this it may not be a good barometer considering Notre Dame's passing game right now, but is that the key for you going forward with this Purdue team, is just to simply limit those big plays?
I think so. Damon, that was the issue last year defensively. It was feast or famine. Get a big play or give up a big play. And if you look at the stats, they were last in the Big Ten in points allowed per game. Over 30 per game they allowed. Only team in the conference to do that. So they know there's improvement that has to be made on defense. We'll see. The jury's still out, right? Walters has really overhauled this roster the last 18 months. They've gotten a lot bigger, guys, on both sides of the line, especially, and at cornerback too, and a wide receiver that's noticeably bigger. So we'll see how it really translates Saturday. But know this, guys, this Notre Dame offense, it looks pretty pedestrian at this point with Riley Leonard. I don't think they've thrown a touchdown pass this year.
I don't think he feels good. They're in a little bit of a bind.
So again, for me, I guess I wrote about this morning. Maybe the matchup that decides this thing is Purdue's offense, which is pretty good, I think, and Notre Dame's defense, which is very good. That may be the matchup that decides Saturday's game, which starts at 3:30 here Eastern time.
Tom, you mentioned Purdue's offense. Obviously, Hudson Card was a little bit up and down last year. First year at Purdue, first year in the system. We saw him have an incredible performance against Indiana State. How much of that do you think is, a little bit opponent specific? How much of that do you think is legitimate improvement in year two under Graham Harrell's system?
Maybe a little bit of both, but at this point, I'm going to say it's probably more the opponent. Before we get too crazy over Hudson Card, let's see him do it against a power team from Mr. Power League or a power team in Notre Dame. So we'll see. They've said all the right things coming out of camp, even going back to the spring, how he's improved. And second year in the system, he knows it better. He's more confident. On and on it goes. You know that. He was banged up last year, too, played hurt, missed the game. We'll see, right? This is going to be it, fellas. Notre Dame's secondary is very good. Probably the second best secondary Purdue's going to see all year outside of Ohio State. So we'll see, right? Let's show it to us, prove it to us. Can the receivers win contested balls, catch them? Can they get some separation? Can they protect Hudson Card? The line's gotten bigger and hopefully better. So we'll see. This will be the litmus test for us. See how good Hudson Card is. I'll be honest with you guys. Over a year into his tenure, I'm still really not sure. Is this guy really good or is he just average? I guess I really don't know. I think a lot of people feel the same way.
So let me ask you something, TD, because it's interesting because you used the word litmus test, and those ones are pretty easy to see, right? You look at the pH, the balance, and it turns a color, right? With these guys, will your eye know what you want to see to know if they're making progress? Like, I can always tell if a picture's good or not if I know what it's supposed to look like. Do you know what you want it to look like?
I think offensively, I think we probably be on both sides of the ball. Ideally, if you were painting a picture of Purdue's offense and defense, you always want balance, right? And I think the picture would include Hudson Card completing at least 70% of his passes. That was a big point of emphasis. They really want that completion percentage to come up. So I think that's one thing for sure. And the continued success of the run game. It's crazy, guys. If you look at the stats, Purdue led the Big Ten in rushing in conference games and was third overall. So they can run the ball, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball again. And they have some nice weapons, I think. And then defensively, I think that picture would include still being able to pressure the quarterback, and that may be the biggest question on defense with Nick Scorton transferring to Texas A&M and Kydron Jenkins now an inside linebacker. Can they still get after the quarterbacks? Because Jenkins and Scorton were probably the two best in the Big Ten out of last year. At least the stats said they were. So we'll see as the competition gets better if those things are able to surface.
We're talking with Tom Dienhart from On3 covering Purdue football. Tom, have you kind of started to entertain at all the idea that this could be a dramatically improved Purdue team, but because of what kind of has turned out to be a brutal schedule, you really may not end up seeing much progress in the win column?
I think that's a sentiment shared by a lot of people, right? There could indeed be a better team, but this schedule, a lot of heavy lifting. I think in the preseason, I saw the note where Purdue and Florida were the only two teams in the country that had, I think, 4 top 10 preseason teams on the schedule. So again, Notre Dame, Purdue's got Nebraska coming here. They go to Wisconsin. They've got a game at Ohio State. They've got Penn State and Oregon at home. So, I mean, there you go, right? It's tough. And I'll tell you what, the games against peer teams you think you can beat, 3 of those are on the road. They have to go to Michigan State. They have to go to Illinois, and they have to go to Indiana. So a lot of challenges there. And like you said, they could be better, but it may not really be reflected in a better record. They were 4-8 last year. And again, I go back to September, which I began a conversation with, a huge month. checked one box. Here comes Notre Dame. Most people assume this is a loss. Purdue's got to be at least 2-2 or 3-1 coming out of this month if it wants any shot at getting the 6 wins. Oregon State after Notre Dame, and then of course Nebraska. At Oregon State, Nebraska at home are huge.
2 minus 2, I can do this math, Tom, is 0 with Cam Brown and Stewart probably playing. What happens with Green and CJ Smith though?
I don't think they're playing. Walters was asked that yesterday, and he says he did not anticipate was the word he used. He did not anticipate them playing. And I don't think they're going to play. Green's had a foot issue. CJ Smith, supposed to be the fastest guy on the team, has a hamstring issue. I got a feeling that's going to linger for a while. So, got to move forward. Everybody's got some sad song they can tell you, right, about injuries. Everybody's got an injury, so you just got to move on. And is what it is. So, but I don't think they're going to play. But Damon, you mentioned Corey Stewart. He's the number 1 left tackle. He is going to suit up. You like Cam Brown, a transfer from UCLA. If you're an old school football fan, his dad was Larry Brown, who was the MVP of Super Bowl 30 for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Steelers got him paid. I remember vividly, Tom. Don't you worry about that.
I know you're a little bit older than
yeah, Neil O'Donnell, man. I'm like, what are you doing? I woke up I had chills, Tom, and it wasn't from being excited. It was because I was sick over watching the Steelers get Larry Brown paid.
I never thought Neil O'Donnell's name would come up in our conversation. That's great. That's what life is great. But yeah, Cam Brown, he's going to suit up, the UCLA kid, and then they got another defensive lineman named Joe Anderson who's going to play. So again, those guys will help. So yeah, it's a lot of people just want the game to get here. So many unknowns we talked about. How good is this team really? We'll find out a lot on Saturday. And it's going to be a packed house as you would anticipate. So, I'm just glad the sports here. It's fun watching these highlights, seeing these scores. I'm sure you guys are as giddy as I am.
Ross Aid, the House of Horrors, potentially.
Tom,
I'm excited you guys are coming here. I always got coming in from Nebraska. It seems like Nebraska played every year for 100 years now, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm just hoping to get out of there unscathed. Ravi is not very excited about that game in terms of its outcome.
Real quick, guys. Right now at this moment, what was the line in that game?
I'd say 12.
I would say 13.5.
No, for Purdue, Nebraska?
Yeah,
13.5, I think.
Do you think Nebraska would be favored by 12?
Is that a lot?
Boy, I'm surprised by that.
Okay, 7.
I'm going up. 16.5.
Thanks, TD.
All right, be good, fellas.
All right.
We'll have more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. If you're in your car on the way to work, make sure you're buckling that seat belt. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if you wear it correctly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Real quick, before we get into some NFL, let's get TK here. Wants to talk about maybe a little strength and conditioning. So, I'm always going to make time for that call. TK, what's going on?
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
We are good. What's up?
DB, I'm glad to see you beat the allegations of being another team's recruiter again.
Yeah. I'm just one day at a time, man. Just getting as many kids to college as I can, right? If it's not Iowa or Wisconsin, it's now back to Nebraska. So
who's the next one? Is like Braylon Warren going to be like?
I don't know.
On to USC.
Yeah, his dad.
DB sent him to USC.
Listen, his dad's got a pretty strong stroke, man. He doesn't need me. He just who knows where he'll end up.
Okay, so one thing that I haven't heard very many people talk about that I think is very important takeaway from this game is that Corey Campbell has made the majority, like on defense, but also on offense, some of these dudes absolute weapons. Like, you think about how Nash Hutmacher was moving, that's exactly what we thought was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys like Butler, Hutmacher,
Ty Robinson
looks great. Ty Robinson up close looks like kind of more like a hooper.
Yeah, he's enormous, but like pretty lean.
And and obviously they're only 2 years into this, but who do you guys think is the next candidate for that sort of body transformation that we have on like Nash? No, this is talking way far out, but
I don't know. Maybe Quinn Clarke.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm kind of interested to. I mean, they brought him up earlier in the fall.
I see him every week because that's Caleb's guy.
I'm kind of interested to see what Keona Davis looks like in 2 years.
Hey, now he does have his frame is fantastic. That's a good candidate.
Yeah,
I may take Keona Davis over Quinn Clarke
because and he's already
because he does have the all body team.
Yeah, I think Keona Davis is going to be freaky in like a couple years. Maybe not even that long.
Hey, and I just want one more thing. I told you guys their linebackers couldn't play dead, and the only way they could fill holes was if they were already having run blitz.
Yeah, and that's what they did too.
Now,
put them on the move.
That's all they did for the second quarter on. One of you guys is on a run blitz every play.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was right about that. I appreciate the call, TK. That was, I mean, a lot of those adjustments were just getting guys on the move, putting them in the hole.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, they were going to play downhill, but I was surprised. Not surprised because it is kind of in coach rules nature to hold people accountable, but like the wide receiving core didn't all of a sudden get bad in a week, right? Like we need to chill out with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like team overreaction here. Yeah, he called some guys out.
Mm-hmm.
You just get better, but let's not go crazy here.
I also think we have to take the context of what this team is, how he feels about this team versus what we feel like he knew about last year's team pretty early on, in the sense that calling somebody out on a 5-7 team that can't get out of their own way is different than calling someone out on a team that you think
could be pretty good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a different thing. You're talking about a different standard being raised. And so maybe this year's team is already ahead of the blocking of the wide receivers last year, but it's not to where it needs to be for this year's team. And so I think you have to remember that there's a context to all of this.
And I think going into this game, I felt like they could win on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they wanted. They wanted to make those guys.
You had a lot of the play design.
They wanted to make the corners tackle, and Colorado's corners did a good job. I mean, there's really no other way to it. Yeah. Nebraska's receivers didn't do a good enough job in terms of
and for all the hand wringing, it doesn't have anything to do with where Jalen Lloyd went to high school. But I mean, on that wheel route, just put it on him, and you don't even have to have the debate.
Yeah,
it didn't need air, right? It's you cleared the man coverage. You got to get it in front of the safety. Just put it on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there was a little bit of pressure in his face. I'm sure that affected the throw a little bit. I don't know if it affected his decision to put air under it versus to try and just put it right on him. But, that's a ball that I think
I'd like to see that a little more, like if I'm being honest. Just cut down on the air time a little.
Just put it on.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But he throws such a good – I mean, he throws one of the best deep balls for a young guy.
Yes.
I mean, this is – especially with the news that's come up, so I hate to use the name, but he reminds me of Deshaun Watson with deep balls. Deshaun Watson at once upon a time threw as good a deep ball.
Yeah, Clemson and Houston, Deshaun.
As anybody I had ever seen. And Dylan has some of those attributes.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's a fair point though, is that, if that ball's thrown differently, that's a touchdown, whether it's just
because even if you wanted him to lay out, you take the
touchdown off the board.
Touchdown off the board anyway.
You get the big play, but you don't have a touchdown off the board. Kind of went like when he underthrew the other one to Lloyd that Lloyd came back and got. He underthrew it, and it ended up being big play. They get a touchdown the next go, but wasn't exactly where they wanted that thing to end up. So I mean, it's a fair point, and I also think that's one of those things where, hey, game 2 is a true freshman. I think we'll get there.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is it just sets up nicely to stay on the gas, because the week after it sets up.
It'd be so easy to have an emotional letdown if everything went perfect.
Yeah.
Right? If everything was like, oh man, that's about as good as they can play. Nobody's saying that this morning. Fans aren't saying that. Coaches aren't saying that. I'm sure the players aren't feeling that either. It's like I said in the first segment, it's kind of
What's the line?
a perfect. They hadn't had it out yet yesterday,
It's sometimes it's hard to get FBS FCS,
which makes me wonder if maybe they're not going to put one out for the FCS game.
No, they always put one out eventually.
Do they?
Yeah,
Always on FCS games?
it's against an FBS versus FCF. When you have a power opponent, that game is going to get a line.
All right.
Is this new? I mean,
I thought I had seen ones, and maybe it's just because I checked early and they came out later. I thought I'd seen ones FBS, FCS where they just don't put a line out for FCS.
yeah, I mean,
teams.
I guess you'd occasionally have the one, but typically,
Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that one's going to end up being. I mean, Northern Iowa's a pretty good FCS team, but
I mean, what Western Illinois had a line last week,
okay.
so I mean, yeah, they'll get a line.
Yeah, I don't know what that number is going to be.
Well.
It'll be interesting. I'm actually kind of interested to see what this game looks like. I think stylistically it could be a little just not strange, but it's going to. I mean, Northern Iowa runs the crap out of the ball.
Yeah, that's not how I thought they would play going into this season because I figured the strength of their team was still their wide receiving core.
Yeah, but I think they're like 275 a game on the ground. Like that's gonna be an interesting one for Nebraska. Not that we're not used to seeing good FCS teams around here, but that'll be usually Northern Iowa doesn't get thrown into that category with the Dakota schools, and they might be a step off, but that's going to be an interesting one. I did want to get to some NFL here. We had a lot of stuff going on yesterday. Didn't get to recap the
Mondays are always tough.
Yeah, they are. Got a big football game. I don't know if you know that little Colorado Nebraska is kind of a big deal.
That's fine.
How many beers in do you think Sauter was last night watching that one?
Ooh, depends on which point of the game. I'm guessing it picked up as the game went along because things started getting a little squirrely on him.
I'm going to go with 10 plus.
Ooh, that's aggressive on a Monday on a school night.
Yeah, it's 30.5, but the total is only 48.5.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, so what is that, like 39-10 basically, somewhere in there?
Yeah,
40-8. I'm 47. 49ers last night. No Christian McCaffrey. Trent Williams gets out of the game for a while. Really bad in the red zone. Really, really bad in the red zone. I don't actually feel. I mean, even though with the win, I don't actually feel that much better.
You don't think New York was that good?
I didn't think they looked good.
How much will the Niners be fined, do you think?
I have no idea. For like I have no reference for like. I don't.
Well, I just don't, and it's not Jordan Mason's fault, right? But you can't say out loud.
Yeah, I knew this, and we didn't tell you till now.
Yeah.
Now,
which I think doesn't that feel wrong though?
That they should get fined for that?
Yeah. I get so you're only doing those reports. You're doing it for fantasy and gambling purposes.
100%.
Whatever happened is just good old fashioned gamesmanship.
Well, and Shanahan tried to go back and get it and be like, I told him to be ready on Friday.
And maybe he did.
Yeah, so maybe that's how he took it. But there's a good chance they're going to get a little invoice from the NFL saying like, hey.
I hate that. Because it's not Mason's fault.
No, it's not. It's also, I mean, I understand putting the report out day of.
And you give that much credence to
what some guy saying after the
fantasy and gambling?
Well, 100% they do, because that's a huge. I mean, just it's the money part, right? Like they're
going to be your partner regardless.
Yeah, probably.
They're going to be your partner regardless.
Yeah, they're not. There's no other football leagues to go and try. So they're trying to cater to them, and I don't know how much it
Yeah, I don't. There's something that doesn't feel great about that.
No, I get it. Right, especially because the 49ers, it's not like
that's what the reports are for.
Yeah, it's not like they went to game time trying to tell you that McCaffrey was going to play. That came out
5 o'clock, maybe?
Yeah, it was 2-3 hours before the game. Like, that's plenty of time.
Yeah, should have been.
I would think. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the timing of when the 49ers let people know. Like, college teams, half the time, they don't tell you ever. You just got to find out till somebody.
And they have to. Their report comes out too.
Yeah,
but I don't know how honest they are.
Right. I think there's a little more gamesmanship there than there is in the NFL for
Because
sure.
I think theirs is the day of as well.
I think official one is day of. I don't think you can be mad at Jordan Mason. He's a guy in probably the best moment of his life at that point. It's got to be up there after going for almost $150 on Monday Night Football. And, so you're going to hit him with a fine for, hopefully not him personally. I don't know how the report fines work. I would imagine that's organizational.
Kind of seemed easy.
Yeah, he had some pretty big holes to run through.
He went for over 5 a carry, I think. Whatever, 28 for 147.
Yeah, it's right at 5, I think. Right in that. I think it's right at.
No, because 28 times
it'd be 140.
5 would be 135. No, it would be 135. Right?
140, I think.
28 times.
Because the 5 times 20.
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah,
I don't know why I had 27 in the brain, but anyway.
It's 5 plus a carry. The holes are pretty big. That's kind of the thing that when I looked at the Jets, I thought defensively they'd be fine. It was like, hey, how was Aaron Rodgers, all that kind of stuff. I didn't look at the defense as a question mark.
So, do you know how many 300-yard passers there were this week in week 1?
Oh, not a lot. I heard a stat. It was the fewest passing yards since like 2000 as a league in week 1. Was it like 2?
2. Do you know who they were?
It was, Mahomes only went for like 291.
Correct. That is the exact number that Mahomes went for.
Mayfield?
No, close.
I thought he went for like 334.
289.
Somebody went for 330. Was it Darnold?
No, although he did look good.
Somebody went for 334, and I can't remember who it was. And I don't know.
It was 338.
Okay. Who was that?
Oh, Tua.
Oh, that's right. And who was
the guy that you don't like? But it was warm weather, and it was Miami, so you're going to give him.
Well, it's, we'll see how it looks in November in Detroit. No, wherever. It's fine.
Detroit plays indoors.
Yeah, but he has to go outside. It's going to be freezing.
Then who was the other one?
Who was the other one?
Well, you don't have to touch your computer. Just answer the question.
I'm just going to look at the scores. See what I can't remember. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's Stafford.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, how would you like to have been on the receiving end of that no cover? It was 5.
That doesn't feel great.
Yeah, you go to overtime. It's 26.
Does that feel better or worse than the Oklahoma State cover of the 7.5 against Oregon?
Or
against Arkansas.
So it got a lot of people had 8
Did
and
they?
8.5. Yeah. So I meant to go back because what's his buckets ball head guy with the glasses? Bad Beats.
Oh, Van Pelt.
Yeah, was gonna use it, and then his statistician called him on it.
That a lot of people had gotten it at 8.5.
Yeah, like they went back to the closing line. Let's find. I do know the total in the who got to 43.5. Was it Texas and Michigan? Right on the number. Everybody holding their breath over.
Yes, because that was 43.
The 2-point conversion,
and that one ended at 43.5,
which is crazy. Vegas is sick, but
they're pretty good at this.
Not near as sick as you. What game was I looking for?
Arkansas, Oklahoma State.
Oh man, Arkansas and Oklahoma State.
It's a unbelievable surprise.
It is. My man said kegs and eggs. Like just rolled right off.
Kegs and eggs in football. Let's go.
ESPN is saying it closed at 10.5.
Yeah, and I've seen that 10 too.
I don't know if he bought it down, but our guy RP had it at 7.5, so he was very happy with how that went.
Yeah. Why would he do that? That's 2 points.
I don't know if he bought it down or if he got it early.
So I'm just looking back and going to line move. Oh, so at 149 on the second, it was 7.5. And it stayed at 7.5 for 1:30, 2:30, about 10 hours. Then on 9, he must have got it early.
Yeah.
Because it ballooned 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, 10 by the 6th. 9-6.
A lot of people on the pokes.
They didn't look good.
No.
But that's a veteran team, though. I mean, that's he's got a bunch of old heads over there.
Yeah, I never am particularly in love with the way Oklahoma State looks most of the time.
Yeah.
There's always things I'm like, I don't love it, but they end up winning 9 or 10 games every year. So I kind of just throw my hands up and say, I guess it's a Gundy thing.
Yeah.
I almost never love how they look.
Do you want to know the top 10 QBRs from Sunday?
Yeah.
And just let me know if you think it was indicative of their play. Number 1, voted the most overrated quarterback by his peers.
Josh Allen?
Correct. Number 2 was Anthony Richardson, and a loss.
I'm going to say no there.
It didn't seem like
Yeah, because he's like 9 for 19. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't,
9 for 19.
He had that incredible 60-yarder.
Yeah.
And obviously ran the ball a bunch. I think QBR, I think that's one of its flaws is it overrates the rushing quarterback.
No, these next two, I like one of
overvalues.
them.
Yeah.
The other one may have been opponent specific.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield was next. Then Derek Carr. Now, they did play the Panthers.
Yes.
So
you have to take that with a giant.
Again, what was the fuss about the Panthers this offseason? Like we thought.
I didn't think.
And now Derek Brown has surgery.
I
Their
didn't.
Best defensive player.
I didn't think anything about
Everybody
the
was
Panthers.
all over that line. It was 4.
Yeah. They ended up winning by 37, I believe.
It was never close.
No. I mean, that was it. That was as much of an ass kicking as you ever see in the NFL.
Then
Teams always need a team they can tune up, and they did that.
Then your guy that didn't throw a touchdown nor a pick. That would be Brock Purdy.
Oh yeah, my guy.
Yeah, but guess who's next?
Brocktober.
And he should have been comeback player of the year last year. He played well. They almost upset the Bills.
Oh, Kyler
Murray.
He did. He played really.
I'm telling you, there's something about that little dude that I like this year.
He played better. The stats aren't overwhelming once you get in there, but I thought he played. I thought he genuinely played pretty well, and
it was a pretty underwhelming. Underwhelming day.
Yeah, it was. There's a lot of guys sub 200 yards, which you don't see that much in the NFL anymore.
Is running game back, maybe.
Our running backs back in.
Guy Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, we don't need to talk about Trevor Lawrence.
That's all right. I mean, they played. They ran it till the end.
They played okay. They played fine. I don't think they're a good team. I don't think they're bad.
At what point, if you're Meek, and it's sad, they're notoriously slow starters anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But how bad did the Bengals look?
Oh, really bad. I mean, one of the first things I thought on Sunday, and I was like, "Ooh, DB's regression Bengals that might be."
I wish they had stopped the season today because
might be able to put that one in the bar early.
1-0, man, and everybody else lost.
So would they have the number 1 seed?
No, because it would go to probably point
differential,
and they wouldn't be differential. I think it would be points scored.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they would.
And then head to head.
Okay, I didn't know if they would.
Or head to head and then points scored. So probably Buffalo would be the one. So we might as well just stop the season.
You should stop it now?
Yeah, but one thing I do hope, please don't play Jameis Winston. Trot Deshaun Watson back out there because you may have nailed that one.
I felt pretty good about it.
Oh, relax. That was a year and a half ago.
I've been saying it for a while.
And he's been hurt.
That he's washed.
Dude,
he looked so bad.
So did I read that those assault charges are now stemming from 2020?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so is that under the rules in which he was reinstated, they could revisit the punishment with any.
Yeah, it's an additional one. It's a new victim or a new alleged victim. So
she's new.
That's what I read. I don't have.
He may be. So maybe Jameis, come on down.
Yeah, he's in a world of trouble.
Yeah, we ever been so wrong about a guy?
You mean like personality wise? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Bill Cosby comes to mind, but
good call.
Like, I mean, not a sports person, obviously, but that's the one that always comes to mind for me, where who he was kind of publicly and who he was apparently privately is about as far away as you can get. But yeah, I think everyone sort of viewed Deshaun as a decent dude, and that does not appear to be the case. Of course, we also think he was a good quarterback.
While we're overreacting to week 1,
I love overreacting.
All in or all out on the Commanders, who looked atrocious.
I'm out. I wasn't super in on him anyway, and there is no way that Jalen Daniels can carry the ball 16 times every week and come out alive.
A couple of scrambles, but still.
Yeah, but I mean,
he is a little guy.
He's not a big guy, and I get that they're scrambles. It's not a called thing, but he still has to learn, like, hey, that's not really how you can play the game here at that size. I mean, we thought Cam Newton could take the beating, and
he's 6'6", 250.
Yeah, and that he ended up paying the price for it eventually, too. Coming up next, we'll have more Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. He might be thinking about going 1-0 each week. We're thinking about a couple weeks ahead when Illinois comes to town on a Friday, and you can come to Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill to see us live.
Is that our next baby? Let's go.
That's right, because I know you've been thinking about that breakfast sandwich for 2 weeks now. We will have that one live.
Back when I was important, I used to have say-so on the meals.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah, well, you had a burger named after you.
Yeah, they got rid of that too. It's like, damn.
If they serve breakfast, I bet they'll name the breakfast sandwich after you.
Man,
the Benning Brekkie sandwich.
Yeah, Brekkie. That's cute. You had it with your
adorbs,
with your nuggies, goofball. I would go an egg, cheddar or jalapeno cheese. Back in the day, would have been a hash brown on there with bacon and sausage.
There you go.
And called it good.
Well, you can get the breakfast sandwich that DB has been dreaming about for the last week on Friday.
Don't think I won't.
September 20th. I think I might have an out of town visitor that might be visiting for that one.
Oh, is he coming up?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you put him on the spot. He didn't have a choice. He didn't tell you.
Well, he's gonna try. He doesn't know what the timing's gonna work out exactly.
What is he?
He's coming in for the game.
Is he pastoring?
Yes.
Bring the youth.
You're putting me on the spot.
No, do not bring the youth.
Well, they're old enough. They're not going to drive you crazy.
Actually, no, I did hang out with one of the because he does college stuff now.
That's what I'm saying.
He works with the wrestlers a lot.
Yeah. And
there was a guy that was there when we were hanging out in July, and he I guess was 2 spots away from making the Olympic team. And so
you were telling me.
He's kind of watching the Olympics, and it's like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm having a little hard time with this.
Yeah.
He was super cool though.
Well, pastor him up.
He was a good dude. Well,
thou shalt not covet other people's Olympic spots.
Not my job. I'd be like, yeah, you stay, Petty King.
Lord knows you do, boy.
But you can come hang out. That's
Ravi, Richard, Kyle, Petty.
It's presented by EP Foundation Repair. I ran into our guy Mikey on the sideline on Saturday.
Mikey
from EP.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How was he doing?
He's doing good. He's like, I'm ready to come on whenever.
You met Rozier. He was out here just acting belligerent.
No, I ran into him.
Did you see him and Dion yucking it up?
No.
How about Dion, like kind of running through Bud? Were you out
with
there
Bud?
Yeah, like, so there was this little
I saw
thing
a video.
in the corner, and he like kind of dapped him up and then acted like he was going to do something. He just took off jogging.
Yeah.
But he came out in like this black hood, had it over his head.
And then he had the socks all the way up to the knees.
Yeah.
This is not a great look for Dion.
Why did he come all the way down there, though?
Man.
See, that set the tone, too, for, because a lot of Nebraska's players pray in that Colorado corner.
Mm-hmm.
So when they all ran down there and the sheriffs were like, hey, not today. We're not having it. And then they took a knee in the end zone. I looked at Sharp. I was like, man, the last time I saw somebody do that during pregame, we got our whooped in Arizona. But then Colorado did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah.
In Nebraska's end. So I was like, all right, we can stop tucking. We're already
ready to go.
We are already crying over Bears comments. And
so let me ask you about this, because I thought
you can't say anything game week. You're talking trash. Knock it off.
A lot of people talk trash. It worked out just okay for them.
Wieners.
You can only not talk trash if you're bad.
Nebraska's department being on it.
Oh, I loved it.
Talk about
keeping receipts.
Right?
Yes.
I sure hope so.
I love that that's coming from the official account too. I love it.
Right? They're just not this they just don't care. Bravado.
Yeah.
Like they're good. Hey, we got good players too. Yeah. We have personalities too. Hey, we're a good team.
Hey, celebrities care about us too.
This whole woe is me, like that stuff is stop being a gump. right? Like, let's go.
That does not exist inside the
They
walls
cut
of
that whole thing up too. It was beautifully done.
Oh, it was gorgeous. I loved it.
God bless their editing department over there at the stadium.
I also loved
Shady McCoy just running his mouth.
I also loved I don't know if you saw the video of Terrence Knighton after the game.
Oh,
hitting the watch celly.
Yeah, listen.
That's where I was like, oh, he might be my new guy.
He's a real one.
I love that dude.
He's a real one.
I mean,
he's funny.
Yeah.
But he's mean. Like I don't know. He's
what's he wearing the long sleeves? He goes, I'm too cool to be hot.
Thank you.
He'll cut your throat too. That's the CEO of Death Row.
I was already predisposed to like him because I like his group so much, and was an early adopter after last spring on that D line.
They act just like him.
I love that dude.
The closest to their coach's personality is the running backs.
Yeah.
But the next closest is probably D-line or O-line.
D-line, yeah. I could see O-line.
I don't.
But they're not as naturally tough as Donnie.
Yes.
They want to be like him though.
Right.
So they're close. So Donnie's he's a legit tough guy. Like I don't know if
I would not.
I don't know if Bryce is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But he's trying.
Good player.
He's trying.
Yeah. Now Mazuka and Justin Evans and Ben Scott.
They're mean.
They're mean. Those are mean people.
Mean.
Bob Sledge. He's a mean person.
Oh, Sam.
Bob?
Sam.
I said Dad. Dad's definitely mean. No. What I said there was true. Go hug that guy.
I mean, that'd be weird because I never met him, so that'd be awkward.
Still yoked.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him and Nash's dad just like.
Dude, Nash's dad's enormous.
Do you see his ink?
Yeah.
That dude's got to be wearing about $3-4 in ink.
I was like, how is Nash still the little one?
Yeah, dude is big swole.
He's so big.
Yeah.
So
at least I know our parents won't be out here getting whooped.
Oh no! If there's a fight between parents, Nebraska stand on business.
But I loved it. It's like, don't run from that.
So here's something I was wondering, and I don't know because of when you played if you would have ever had this moment, right? But I think you may have, coming from like 92 to 93 to 94. It feels like Nebraska last year hoped they were good, but they weren't sure. This year, whether it's Rule, whether it's all the players.
Going from hoping to knowing?
Yeah, like they know they're good now.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot. That's the real thing.
Were you guys ever, I don't want to say down enough, but were you guys ever at a point when you played where you had to shift from hoping to knowing?
Yes.
When was it?
So when I first got there.
Okay.
So 91, they took it on the chin.
Yep.
92, here comes this, this big mouth group and it's highly touted. And we get into it early at a couple parties with some of the older guys. And the 91 group, so the Clusters, the TVs, the Muhammads, the Dumases, those guys were like, oh, okay. We finally got, not finally, we got some guys that we think can be pretty tough.
Yeah.
And then we started clicking and we got the Unity Council that year.
In 92.
Yeah. So that really, really, really helped. Like player representatives, having a pulse of the team, started really being other center because they had good players. But I mean, these guys were always so worried about like the pros and stuff. And, you had the Crowells and the Pickens and, I mean, and no disrespect, because those guys were really, really good players, but it wasn't about the team thing wasn't really a thing yet, where you could self-regulate and guys would listen to one another and
kind of the ownership
where common language built in. Why am I a huge common language guy? Well,
builds in accountability,
and I saw it firsthand. I mean, when you looked at those pillars for the Unity Council and kind of what that was about, it lets you correct real time. So that's why at the end of the day, I'm not just common language for common language guy.
So you saw it happen.
I saw it work.
Yeah.
And I saw it keep guys in check for the most part. Even when they had to deal out punishment, there was no, it was what
There's
it was.
no back and forth. It's like, hey, this is the standard. This is what we do.
Yep. This is what happened. This is what's going to happen. and we'll see you on the other end. Hopefully you can hang in there.
Because
Hopefully nobody takes your job in the meantime.
in context, I know we're talking about different stuff now, but it was 3 straight years under 10 wins, 90, 91, 92, which was the longest stretch in about 15 years that Nebraska hadn't won 10 games
morale
in a
was
season.
not good.
Yeah.
Revisionist history will have you to believe it was. It was not good. Ask Dumas. It was a selfish team.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden that 92 class, that's why I was wondering, because I think in the context, it's very different now versus then. But I think in the context, I could have seen similarities of, hey, there's a leap that needs to be made here within the locker room about.
Yeah, Eric Kareem Moss and Ernie Beeler, they got to take in a young Mike Minner. It's not always easy to do, but they did it.
We got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. That's the head man, Matt Rule, talking about Bud Crawford there, which was, that entrance was pretty legit.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I say what you will. I know some people get a little, I don't know what the word is. They get a little critical that maybe Nebraska doesn't always have the raucous atmosphere that they wish it did some other places. They complain about some of the older people sitting down too much and whatever. But I don't know. If you hear from the recruits, and we'll talk to Mike Schaefer about that here in the next segment, sounds like it was about as good as anywhere they've ever seen. And those entrances and that
one already paid immediate dividends.
Yeah, I mean, just Christian Jones, we talked to him earlier this morning, commits last night. And whether it's the social media team, whether it's the in-stadium production team, they do an unbelievable job. Like that whole thing, they were just, I mean, let's be honest, they were manipulating the emotions of the crowd.
You could even Nate Rohr was on his game early in the stadium PA,
Yes,
right? Like
100%.
He got that thing lit in a hurry.
Well, the lighted pillars on the outside, on what is that, the north side during the pregame, I mean, that looked sweet.
North side.
Everything they had.
Everything.
I'm gonna
looked
ignore
awesome.
the fact he said lighted, but it's neither here nor there.
It's lit. It's lit.
It was lit.
Get lit, Shano.
Hey, why do we have to change the pronunciation? Why? How come you just can't say it?
You can't light it up.
How come you just can't say it was lit?
It was lit.
Stop. See?
Well,
don't go all Dion.
Well, actually,
Steven may have more hood in him than you do. I don't know if I'd be knocking so Steve.
I never said I had any hood in me. I went to Miller North, man. What do you expect?
Well, you could be hood and be at Miller North.
It's unlikely.
I almost just said something.
Especially when I was there in 2005.
This time around, I like my job. It's all good.
It's all good in the not so hood Miller North.
Who do you guys have this week?
Papio South. I think it's Papio South.
God, their slow start surprises me a little.
Yeah, you thought they were going to be all right.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I'll be interested to see. I don't know if
I know.
I don't know if I'll go out to that one this week or where I'll end up, but we haven't made a decision on the weekend yet where we'll be.
We should probably figure it out.
I mean, it's only Tuesday. I got time.
Shane, we have Coach Cool on deck.
Friday,
yes.
It's Friday.
Who do you guys have this week?
Millard West.
Oh, yeah. I think you'll be okay there.
Oh, you know.
I've seen him.
Wow.
What?
Gee whiz.
I saw him. I think you'll be okay. What?
All right.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, I can't make an analysis.
It's high school. Oh, no, you can. I'm not listening. It's not. Own it.
I am owning it.
Okay. Well,
I think you're gonna be okay.
All right. Cool. Cool.
That's a team
What's up?
think you can get.
Just trying to ramp up, man.
How you feeling about your guys' team? Like week 1 to week 2, how'd you feel?
We're okay.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Week 2 to week 3?
I'm just trying to figure out. We need to settle in on an identity.
Offensively, defensively, or both?
Probably more offensively.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But I mean, we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have
we took a lot of shots downfield in Columbus.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you lose a guy that's a really dynamic athlete at quarterback because you can't script a lot of what Anthony brought to the table. And so it's going to be, that was kind of
two really good running backs.
Yeah.
We got 4 or 5 really good wide receivers.
Yeah. There's a lot.
So you just kind of have to settle in. I mean, I guess maybe it's going to game plan each week, but.
Yeah. Call by ear. I don't love that.
I don't either.
I like an identity.
But we'll see. We'll
get after it.
Well, we just got to tackle and keep folks off.
You home or away?
We are at Buell.
Oh, good old Buell. Speaking of light show.
A couple of road games in a row.
Yeah, a couple of roadies. At least that one's not far.
No, but it's a miserable place to get in and out of.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's not great.
No.
I have a little secret spot that I park every time.
I'm sure we're similar in that.
It's not really a secret, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people go there, so I'm just going to keep it to myself.
Yeah, as long as you're not over there at KinderCare.
No.
I wonder if it's still called KinderCare. It's a little daycare back there up there on the hill.
I have no idea.
I'm not afraid to walk either.
I try to avoid those places like the plague.
Tough hang.
Lots of tough hangs. It's just literally an entire building full of tough hangs. No, thank you. Pass. I don't even know what that is, Shane.
Pine cones.
Oh, pine cones on a stick?
Yes.
I was thinking about Coach Rule, especially with the commitment of CJ, Christian Jones last night, because I think there's, and obviously we're a lot closer to him now than we were when he was at Baylor, at Temple, or any of that. But I think there's a level of like the Coach Rule process that we haven't seen yet that I'm sort of excited about. And you've hinted at this a little bit, because like level 1 is ground zero, right? It's like, hey, we're starting over, starting from scratch, whatever. And then I call it sort of the turnaround. You see progress, you get to that winning record. So it's usually that year 2 at his previous stops. And then you've got legitimate contender, right? You got 10, 11 win seasons. What we really haven't seen from him, because he hasn't had that opportunity and because his previous stops have been relatively short, is like full blue blood Matt Rule, in the sense of, okay, look at the operation he's got at Nebraska versus what he's had access to in his previous spots. Look at the things that are at his disposal, and then look at the way he goes about his business. You've hinted at, hey, when they start winning, this thing's going to turn into a recruiting juggernaut.
Yeah.
We sort of started seeing that over the weekend. We saw it obviously with landing Christian Jones, who thought he was going to go to Oklahoma this summer. Like, I think there is a level of, hey, if it gets going at a place like Nebraska where you don't have the limitations of a Temple or Baylor, I think there's a possibility there's this whole other thing we haven't even seen yet.
You're right. I have hinted to that. He's incredible, and he's aggressive, and he's confident, and I think he's one of those people that loves to stay on the gas. He calls it ADHD, and he does have a little bit of that, but you know what it is? It's really what's next to do. It's
like an obsession almost.
It's
of how do we keep getting better?
Yep. And he'll have the resources, and he's got a boss that's gonna push the envelope
to provide him even more resources.
Because that's just, they both think like that. What's next? What other revenue streams can we open up? Oh, how can we get better? And he's going to bang the national drum. Right? That's what he does. I mean, I'm sure he likes Will, but I mean, part of the busting with the boys is national appeal. Like McAfee is national appeal. Klatt is national appeal. He thinks Nebraska belongs on the national stage. So if he ever gets them on the national stage, he's going to turn into a monster, because it's just, he's confident. He says a lot of things out loud. He doesn't take a back seat. So you're basically empowering someone You're basically putting his personality on steroids.
Yeah, you're giving him rocket fuel.
Yeah.
And I think for most people, I would be.
He's just a level upper.
Yeah. And there's higher levels at Nebraska that are available to you
and
than there are at
don't
Baylor or Temple.
don't kid yourself, right? He wants to be right, so he said we will play championship caliber football here again.
Yeah, we're going to be
I don't
nationally
know when.
relevant again.
I don't know when, but
it will happen.
He said that at Westside. He's like, make no mistake about it. We will win at the highest level. He basically was telling CJ, you can wait till we win or not. I don't know if that's what you're saying. I think that's what it's just got awkward, right? And he goes, make no mistake about it, though. We will win.
Yeah.
That's how he said it. And I was like,
Well, I mean, when you know you're good.
Is anybody, hey, Coach Lamar, what do you think? Anybody else?
I'll be like, yeah, I think they're going to win too.
Anybody else want to chime in? It's awful. It's awful quiet in here.
You guys want to go shoot some hoops or something?
Like, I just know it's just how he is.
And I am in normal situations with other people, I would be there would be a little bit of me that would be worried.
You know what first worried me, right?
What's that?
Absolute power would corrupt absolutely.
I agree. The one thing that makes me hopeful that it won't is that he's already been humbled.
And he's still got a ways to go to get there.
Yes.
So I think I said this on air. Maybe it was just in private. I think the best thing that happened to him was Carolina.
That's why, the humbling, because that.
And now he's this hyper. His radar is good.
That's not something he'll forget anytime soon.
His radar is very good.
Apparently, it's not something Panthers fans have forgot anytime soon either. They're wild, man.
They're bad.
It's like, hey, you've been bad outside of that time frame too, right? Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill as we effort Mike J. Schaefer from Husker 24.
He's here now.
Okay, he is here now. Mike Schaefer, how are you this morning?
I am doing well. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Pretty good. Was that the Sam Darnold you're expecting to see? Because that's repeatable.
I mean, I think that was the Giants I was expecting to see.
Yeah, boy.
But no, I mean, the buzz about Sam Darnold has all been good, basically through camp and everything. I mean, I don't know what to reasonably expect out of him, but he has offensive weapons to get the ball to. People I think thought they were going to be bad. I don't think they're going to be bad. I just think they're kind of a middling, 500 type team. Like, I think they're going to scare some teams. It wouldn't shock me if Ravi's 49ers come into Minnesota yet again and lose. I don't know that I'd be that surprised by it. But I don't look
part of the Sam Darnold revenge tour. What do you mean? Vikings all the way.
Those legendary games he played for the 49ers, I think, at the end of the 2022
I just want to say,
season.
I can't believe you made me hold this clipboard. Take this.
I just want to say you're welcome for making him into a functional quarterback for you so you could use him this year. I'm glad we could help out there. Now, I guess real quick on the Vikings, would you have expected a different season with a rookie J.J. McCarthy playing quarterback?
I don't think McCarthy would have started the season. So I think they were going to start Sam Darnold almost regardless. I think they viewed this as a redshirt year for J.J. McCarthy. I really do. So it would have been kind of let Sam Darnold play himself out of being the starting quarterback, and then at the end of the year, put in J.J. McCarthy to see kind of what he can do as a runway for 2025. Like that's what I expected that they would do. I mean, we saw it is really tough to just go from college football to being the day one starter in the NFL. I mean, Caleb Williams was terrible against the Titans team that nobody is putting in the playoffs. So and even Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix had their struggles too. Like, it's really hard to go from college football to being a starter in the NFL. And I joke about it, but J.J. McCarthy threw the ball 8 times a game at Michigan. I don't think he would have been a great choice to just throw in right away. I think he was going to need some time. And so, the knee injury is unfortunate because they're not going to be able to see him at all this year. But I don't think they were ever really counting on him being the day one starter.
Yeah, you would normally have a chance to make some hay too, especially if you can get by the Niners because of the Jordan Love situation. I think the Lions were always going to be the
Are we
Lions.
talking about the Jordan Love situation where he reverted back to a pumpkin or the knee injury? Which
wow.
I mean,
which is the Jordan
little
Love?
from column A, little from column B.
The guy who was 2-6 last year before they ripped off a bunch of wins, or
the guy who I was like, "Are you sure you want to pay him $50 million a year based
week
on half a
one
good
react.
season?"
Here we go. Big
Did I
red
not
week-
say that in real time?
Yes, week one react.
The people like, "You got to pay him." I was like, "Do you?"
Hey, so
no, you don't.
you want horrible, smelly, no good, stinky line of the week? The Colts going to Lambeau, facing a Malik Willis-led Packers team, are a 3-point favorite. Really? It's like, okay. The trendy Colts.
So they weren't as enamored with the 9-19 effort from Anthony Richardson as everyone else
Maybe
was?
that's what it is.
I mean, maybe.
But we are talking about Malik Willis. So what is Green? That line reeks.
Did it make you say what you talking about?
Yeah, we talking about Malik Willis. You're an idiot.
That was terrible.
It is. It is terrible.
I can't help myself.
But speaking of what isn't terrible, we talked to CJ this morning, Schaefer, early, and he kind of was he was honest as usual, right? Doesn't really care how it sounds. Did talk about how he was pretty enamored with Oklahoma for a long time and didn't say anything. Yesterday at practice, he said he wasn't going to say anything really out loud until he talked to Coach Venables first. Did that thing play out real time different than you thought, even though you thought at the end it will be a Nebraska thing?
I guess no, because sort of the conversations I was having and hearing in the summer, the Nebraska end of it, I think they always liked where they were at with Christian. I think they felt like they kind of knew where he was at with everything else. And it was a matter of, we just have to prove to him that this isn't the same Nebraska he's watched for, 10 years. Like, I think just based in, pretty heavily off of a conversation I had with someone who would know that recruitment really well. The feeling was Nebraska comes out and shows early in the season, this isn't the same team. He's going to buy into that. And I think that's ultimately what happened. I mean, I think it's important that he was at both the first week game against UTEP and then the Colorado game. I think it's important that he has such a strong relationship with Tony White that's been forged over years now at this point, going back into December of 2022 when those guys met. And I think you were telling me about how they were just shooting hoops in the gym.
Yeah.
So like, I think that a lot of time and effort had been put into Christian Jones. I think he knows that. And there's a lot of trust there with that coaching staff. I mean, it goes beyond just, I think, the general feeling that he likes where Nebraska's headed. I think that he trusts the coaches, in particular, Tony White, Rob Dvorak, and Matt Rule, to get him to where he wants to go. And so, I'm maybe a little bit taken back that Oklahoma closed it as much as they did, but ultimately this ended up where I think most of us thought it was going to.
Schaefer, as far as the other high-profile recruits that were on campus for Nebraska, was there anyone that really stood out to you in either their comments after the game or in a way that you think, hey, that really might have sealed the deal for them as well?
Yeah, I go to Dawson Merritt. I mean, I think this one's going to be kind of a fascinating recruitment too, because I think he's one of those guys who's going to speak glowingly of whichever program is on the phone with him. But I also think that Nebraska has a lot going for it in this recruitment. I mean, I think this is where his family wants him. It's closer to home. They'd be able to see him play while also, his dad coaching at the Chiefs. With those home games, you'd have a little bit better opportunity for that. and I think the family would like to see him be a little bit closer than Alabama. I think he's pretty enamored, though, with the idea of playing for Alabama. So the more Nebraska can win and the more Nebraska shows that it is going to be part of a national college football conversation moving forward in the present tense and not the past tense, it's really going to help out. I just the comments that he made to me yesterday reflect somebody who is very intrigued by what's happening at Nebraska. And I think, again, it goes back to the same three with Christian Jones. I mean, these guys are linked. I think Nebraska would love to have both of them. I don't think they have to have both of them. I think getting Christian is huge for sort of filling out what was kind of the last sort of big need in the class. But adding both of them would make them, even stronger. And I think the relationship with Dawson, not Dawson, the relationship that they have with Dawson kind of starts with Tony White and Rob Dvorak, Terrence Knighton, and Matt Rule. But then he was talking about how Marcus Satterfield and the offensive staff was coming over. He just feels really connected to this coaching staff. And again, I think if Nebraska continues to win, it's going to possibly take care of itself in that regard. And then Michael Terry, the third, the five-star wide receiver out of San Antonio, Mike Roach caught up with him, and he basically, put it out there. He thinks it's a Nebraska-Texas battle now. He thinks Oregon has been jumped here. Nebraska has really put themselves in a good position. The update was kind of funny because you have every other quote from everyone else is about that atmosphere, and it's like the best thing they've ever seen. Then you have Michael Terry, whose first initial quote was, it's a lot like my other visits to Nebraska. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this doesn't bode well. But apparently everything was really good, and that staff has done a really nice job recruiting Terry. So I think that they have a real chance there. I mean, it's conceivable they could end up with three of those big four, Cortez Mills being the other. I think he's probably going to be the toughest to pull. There's a lot of reasons why he's going to Norman, Oklahoma.
So, Schaefer, let me ask you something. Considering it doesn't sound like we've learned our lesson yet with overreacting, apparently now McGuire's forgotten how to coach, even though a week ago we were talking about the young wide receivers and how he's turned the room around and this, that, and the other. You get the sense after the presser yesterday that he's as bad a coach as maybe our spheres of influence would lead you to believe? Because I think we're overreacting a little.
I think the vacuum of Nebraska can't do this and Nebraska can't do that. Well, they went and they won that game on Saturday, but then it wasn't that they won the game on Saturday. It's that they didn't look good enough in the second half. The offense didn't score. It's one of those, there's always got to be some level of conversation around here. So something had to fill the vacuum. And this week it feels like it's very much the wide receivers don't run good enough routes and don't block well enough. And Aaron Murray's breakdowns on YouTube have everybody concerned about what's happening at Nebraska, despite the fact that they lack general context, like down and distance and time remaining, sometimes even, reflecting the score of the game. But yeah, we want to do slow cut-ups of individual plays without context. I mean, it doesn't look good for Nebraska's wide receivers. Is that where were we going? Did I pitch that you lobbed right down the middle?
I was just getting ready to do the old slow toss.
Yeah.
Buddy Wackett. Hey, by the way, speaking of Buddy Wackett, the hallowed grounds known as the Discover's baseball field, man, Mike J. Schaefer is held in very high regard around that area. I didn't know you were the Justin Verlander of the Columbus Discoverers.
Until they put up my school record of most hits batsman during a single season. I don't know that I'm held in that high a regard around there.
Hey, Verlander had to brush guys off the plate.
Listen, you got to keep people on.
I like the inside of the plate. It's not my fault that two-seamer runs inside.
Can't be hanging out over there with the elbow. You got to take care of it.
Hey, Shafe, can you snap? Because Coach Rule is not particularly enamored with snapping the football on special teams.
No, I have never, despite my doppelganger effect of Mark Polini being another one that people felt like I look like. I've never played center. I've never snapped a football, so I don't think I can step in a pinch there and help out. It seems like it's more the frustrations with the long snapping issues, right? Like the speed of it and the general ball placement. Two of the more important things.
I'll say, what else is there?
Direction.
I do think that's something we take for granted, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, they had a veteran guy in Ortiz last year, and you know, as a general fan, like how often are you thinking about the Pittsburgh Steelers long snapper? Never. Like you're just assuming the ball is getting back to the punter and the punter is going to get it away, or the ball is going to get to the holder and the holder is going to get it down. I mean, we kind of autopilot these things, but that's why they're called special teams. And that's why this phase is really important. And Nebraska doesn't clean some of this stuff up, it will cost them a game. Like they were bad on Saturday, and it didn't matter because they were good enough in every other aspect. But man, I thought that kickoff that fell between three guys, I thought that was one of the most inexcusable things that we've seen in a long time.
We're talking to Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, I tried to make the argument that this is just about coming off of the Colorado game, kind of the perfect scenario for Nebraska in the sense that you get the big win, you show up in a big moment, but there's still a ton of teachable moments, and the chances of you getting a little bit too big for your britches seem relatively low. Am I onto something there? Am I smoking something there? How do you feel?
No, Michael Brunch voiced this on Saturday after the game. He's like, it's kind of Matt Rule's perfect game, right? Like you get the dominating performance that you wanted on your defense. You started off fast. You didn't really ever let up. And yet you walk out of that game thinking there's a lot of ways to get better for this Nebraska team. There's a lot of things to go work on. There's a lot of things that they're going to watch in the film room and think, man, we did not do that well enough, and we have to play better football. And then on top of all of it, just the general idea that you can, in college football, no lead is safe. 28-0 against Colorado wasn't safe. Nebraska can't go into a shell. They're going to have to learn how to put teams away. I think, the way that he characterized it, I hadn't thought of it like that until he said it late Saturday night or early Sunday morning. Who even knows what time is anymore? And then, you kind of said it in a similar vein. There's a way to take a lot from that game, which Nebraska came and they played well. But, if you're Matt Rule, playing well doesn't matter. And then also, it's in the rear view now. You move beyond Colorado. You have the opportunity to get better against Northern Iowa, and you've got an Illinois team waiting in 2 weeks that, isn't going to be intimidated by your environment and is going to come in and play grown man football. So you got to eliminate those mistakes because they're going to seize them.
Schaefer, are you surprised? Are you like, hey, that's what I thought at Nebraska's level of physicality when they as a team?
No, this is what I expected. I mean, I don't know that I'm any sort of, Matt Rule at Baylor expert, but I watched a lot of Baylor in 2018 and 2019. Like they got after you. They were physical. They wanted to win in the trenches. And that's one of the reasons, when Matt Rule got here and you look at what they did with their defensive line and having Terrence Knighton, I'm not surprised by any of it. I mean, it's always felt like that's been an emphasis everywhere he's been. And to me, it starts up front. And we saw that you had your essentially your nominal four starting defensive linemen all had sacks. They're all getting after it. They're all physically, ready to go. You didn't bring in Corey Campbell because he was your buddy. You brought him in to get these guys ready to try to get them to the league. In order to do that, they have to be physically ready, and then they have to take what they're learning there and bring it onto the field. And so, no, I mean, I think it's part of the mentality. I think it's part of the growth mindset. I think it's taken a little while to develop. But yeah, Nebraska looked at Saturday to me that they were going to be the aggressor the entire game. They weren't going to get outworked. They weren't going to be out physical. They weren't going to be intimidated. They weren't going to be talked down to. They were going to bring the fight, and they were going to answer whatever Colorado had. And I thought that was apparent from the opening kickoff, really all the way through the fourth quarter.
Schaefer, is there an individual that you haven't heard talked that much about over the last couple of days that you saw and go, hey, I thought this guy really played well on Saturday?
No, in large part because there's enough media conversation. It's hard for people to fall under the radar in this market, especially after a game like Saturday. I mean, I'll just reiterate a lot of the same guys that have already been discussed. I think it was Damon probably about a month ago that was talking up John Bullock and saying that, this was, you felt like people were undervaluing what he was going to bring to the defense. I mean, he was phenomenal on Saturday. I don't mean this as a slight. Yeah, I don't mean this as a slight to Nick Henrich or Luke Reimer, but I don't think we're going to have to ask a whole lot of, what if Nebraska had one of those guys? I think John Bullock is sort of replaced that. Like he looked so good.
No slight at all.
But I don't mean it as a slight. I just mean like John Bullock is so much better than what I anticipated that he could be, and we saw the high end of that Saturday. Coming off the blitz, coming off the side on the fourth down, and then he seems like he's kind of an emotional leader for that team in some ways too.
Because he's mean.
Colorado's sideline. Well, I see. That's more of a slight than what I said. I'm not attacking a personality.
I mean, he is just. He's just nasty.
He seems tenacious. I think
he gives. I mean, yeah. He's one of those. He's one of those blank your feelings kind of guys.
And so there's obviously him. And then I said it after week one. I noticed him all over the field again. He had 3 hurries and a sack on Saturday. I mean, we are seeing by far the best version of MJ Sherman in college football that there has been.
The unsung hero.
I don't know. I don't know that we sort of were prepared for that. I mean, I think we expected Prince Umanmielen to kind of take over that job, and I don't think MJ Sherman's given it up anytime soon. I mean, he's been really, really good, and I don't know if it's just a year of learning pass moves from Terrence Knighton or what, or if he's just got his body down pat. It's just he's getting through there. And obviously UTEP, Colorado, we'll see what happens going forward, but he has sort of rewritten my expectations for him as well. So those are 2 guys coming out of Saturday that, again, it's not like no one else is saying this stuff.
You're only the second one. You and Lincoln Lance. Lincoln Lance was DMing me all game talking about MJ Sherman. And he's gotten very little run. I mean, it's not – Schaefer, you're not quite on an island, but it's not like I hear his name come up a ton.
I mean, people should be saying it. He's been playing great football. I mean, you love to see that coming off of the edge there. And it just shows you how deep they are. You get that from MJ Sherman. You have Prince Umanmielen. Willis McGahee's in for one play for Willis McGahee. And he's a disruptor. You've got James Williams. I mean, it's just it's so impressive what they can throw at you from the outside. And then, oh, by the way, up the middle, you get a block. Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker and Van Poppel and Elijah Judy and everyone else. They can come at you in waves.
I'm still not sure James Williams was offsides.
I don't think he was. He was like a yard and a half off the ball, and he didn't jump.
Was he more onside than TJ Watt on Sunday?
OMG. Wow. So the funny thing is Raheem went in to his presser saying how he was not going to let TJ Watt do that to them.
Yeah, well, I don't think you get to dictate to TJ Watt.
Watt did that to them.
I think TJ decides more what he's going to do to you.
Schaefer, I'm glad you threw me in since we're just throwing softballs to one another. I told Ravi I felt like Watt would be the only non-quarterback that could challenge Mahomes for the best player in the league.
I mean, his record or the Steelers' record when he's on the field is otherworldly. The problem is it just seems hard to keep him on the field for 17 games.
Yeah.
And he can only play one side of the ball. So that's the other problem with the Steelers.
Schaefer, could I make an argument? I'm going to ignore the Steelers talk and go back to the thing I was talking about.
That's good. That's fine.
Schaefer, could I make the argument that the guy that we didn't talk enough about is Marquise Buford?
You can. He's also still maybe a guy that I have a question or two about, like what that ultimately looks like. And it's not like he's played bad by any means. I just am still adjusting to the idea of him as a corner. In the Big Ten, he's going to feel a little small compared to some of the physical wide receivers that you're going to get there. Are they going to be able to body him up? I mean, that's kind of what I want to see. The nice thing is, I don't know that Nebraska is going up against another set of wide receivers nearly as talented as what they just faced. And he did fine. But
until Ohio State.
Yeah. I'm kind of, hanging back a little bit on Marquise Buford. And it's not because I feel like he's played bad. I just, when you have Tommy Hill on one side, I just don't think teams are going to challenge him. So Marquise Buford not only has to be good, but he has to be good all the time because he's going to get the balls thrown his way.
Real quick, rapid fire in the last 60 seconds.
Yep.
I'm just gonna over, under, about the same as you thought heading into the season. USC.
Better than I thought, for sure.
Iowa.
The same.
Illinois.
Closer to the same, but slightly better.
Penn State.
The same.
Ready? Oregon.
Worse. I mean, it's kind of a rough start.
Yeah. What bugs you about Oregon?
I wouldn't say bugs, but it's just, you expect dominance, and it hasn't been there yet. And they haven't exactly. I mean, it's not like that was a great Boise State team that they played. I think Idaho's a game FCS team, but it feels like they've just been a little sleepy so far this year.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
We will be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and it's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether it's in the sportsbook in Omaha or Lincoln. They've got you covered with nearly every major sporting event. DB?
I'm still mad that I can't log in.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Of course you don't.
I showed you what I do on mine. It just goes straight there for me.
Mhm.
I got nothing. Big volleyball match tonight.
Can't wait.
Top 10. First time ever. It's a top 10 matchup between Creighton and Nebraska. And Creighton is looking for their first ever win against the Cornhuskers. Where do you think their chances are tonight for Creighton?
Well, they're pretty good.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. I've felt there's been a handful of times over the past few years that I was like, maybe there's a chance for Creighton here. They've gotten progressively, I think, closed that talent gap. Coach Booth is recruiting at a really nice level. There's a part of me that just always wonders how close it really is, and I don't know. I'm not as adept at volleyball evaluation as I am at some other things, and so I do always kind of wonder, like, how much of it is sort of the big brother, big sister dynamic between the universities and what Nebraska's been versus what Creighton is.
I think these are two pretty evenly matched teams.
You think so? Like, just talent-wise, you think they're pretty close?
And I think, Shane, they had the fives. I don't even know. I'm asking Shane. I think they had the 5-setter in 21.
Yeah, a few years ago there was a 5-setter.
And Creighton's better. Nebraska's better. I don't know. I wouldn't call this a toss-up. I'd make
like 65-35 Nebraska.
Nebraska's it's a money line thing, so probably like minus, I don't know, 150 maybe.
Okay, so not much.
No.
That's pretty.
I had to ask one of my degenerate friends. They would know.
Yeah, what it's at.
Well, Aaron already said he was taking Creighton tonight.
He's got Creighton on the money line. I don't know what that is, what that number is, but I'll be honest, I've never bet on volleyball before. That's not something I've done.
You're sane. I'm going to ask him.
I'm always interested when there's these dynamics where obviously Nebraska has dominated in terms of wins and losses. They've gotten progressively closer, as I mentioned. I just think that's really an interesting spot for both programs because
you got to figure Creighton probably feels better about themselves
at this point in the season. Yeah, I think so. I think Nebraska's trying to figure some things out. Creighton seems like they're feeling pretty good, playing at a pretty high level right now. It's really tough for me, and I don't know if it's just that having never beat them in the back of my head thing that I can't get over, or the fact that in the years past when I thought Creighton was close, the actual matchup.
Shane, call Jacob Padilla.
Didn't end up being
seriously
in that neighborhood. Like that's
get him on the horn.
Yeah,
that's a pretty tough. Hopefully he's awake. I don't know.
He is. We have NEB preps.
Oh, there you go. This is a really interesting matchup, and you're looking at what could possibly be the biggest moment in Creighton volleyball history.
And Nebraska's been tinkering with their lineup so much.
Yeah. It doesn't really seem like they've settled in any way on who they are yet.
So I think experimenting is maybe too strong of a word, but hitting placements and more things have been said, and insides hitting outside and outsides hitting inside. Like I don't know. Creighton's probably in a little bit more of a rhythm.
You feel like searching, like they're like Nebraska kind of searching for.
Well, I think Coach Cook plays the long game
for sure, right? I mean, we saw that last year with how many young people he played.
God, I got another degenerate. John doesn't have it either. He said, "My guy, you guys, man, these dudes are wild." Shane, did you get Padalilla? He's probably not answering.
He's not answering. He's having none of it.
I just think it's funny that you think just because you've got preps, he's awake already.
I mean, he's got that's true. It's an hour. When you get up?
I mean,
He lives close.
I would say he lives really close. That's the thing. I think we still got about 20 minutes before Jacob wakes up.
Oh God, that's tough.
Selfish.
That's my guy. Do we want to try D Marinas? He might know.
Yeah, sure. Try Matty.
Do you have Matty's number,
fine.
Shane?
Yeah, he's got. Look, we're just calling guys randomly. I'm gonna ask Matty too why he has such a man crush on Coach Rule.
He does.
He makes me look like I can't stand the guy.
It's funny to watch this guy who is an Oregon fan, who we'll talk to.
That is so unfortunate.
Him being an Oregon fan.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I think he told me, but I don't remember.
Like most things, you didn't listen.
I listened. It just didn't stick. Like a lot of the lessons my parents tried to teach me. I heard it. It just, converting it from thought to action was.
Cody was like, he can have his wife call. No, Cody, we're trying to figure out if there's a money line. I don't think your wife would know about that. And certainly not calling NSAA volleyball officials.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna help you out there.
Is he or she frequenting like Warhorse?
They should be. Everybody should be. Those are our guys over there.
Why does everybody just screen calls? Are they taking a page out of my book?
So I think part of it is because of the number that shows up when we call. If you're not expecting it,
Shane, did he screen you too?
I don't know. These guys must be on West Coast time.
Doesn't it show up as like a UTAN number, Shane?
Like I said, West Coast time, UTAN time.
Oh
whatever.
my goodness, Ravi.
What? Did you nail it? Is it 150?
No, it's not even close.
Oh, okay.
So you know how you can bet sets.
Yeah.
Nebraska -1.5 sets.
Whoa.
Is -155. To win outright, this is incredible. -410.
Oh, wow. In a top 10 matchup?
Shane, hit Jacob back.
That's aggressive.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost triple what you thought.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
-410?
That's a lot.
I mean, I love both coaches, actually.
Coach Booth is great. I mean, I know everybody knows about Coach Cook. So
did you see how fired up he was on the sidelines yesterday or Saturday with the volleyball team?
Yeah.
Like, he's a fan.
I love Coach Cook.
Did he pick up? I think we might have Jacob. I got to ask Jacob and he doesn't care anything about numbers, but how is it 4-1?
I have no idea. That's an enormous number.
Wow. Wowzer.
I mean, I thought maybe in the twos.
All right. We only have a couple minutes. Do we have young Jacob?
Yeah, he didn't realize there was a UTAN thing.
I told you, man. It's that UTAN number.
Hey, Jacob.
What's up, Jacob?
How are you?
Good morning.
So, full disclosure, we tried Matty DeMarinis too, so you were the first one to get. But can you believe Nebraska is a 4-1 fave tonight?
I guess the series, like Creighton's never won.
Yeah.
But I think this is. I mean, it's the first time they've both been top 10 teams. So obviously, I think this is probably the best Creighton's ever felt going in.
That's what I was telling Ravi. I said I think Creighton feels probably better than Nebraska because Nebraska still seems like they're tinkering a little.
Yeah, well, and Cook even said as much after the last match, and he said it a few times now. He's basically played everybody and has tried a few different kind of rotations, and it's all looked good at different times, and they've all kind of had some struggles at different times. I think big key right now is getting Merritt Beeson going for Creighton.
Yeah.
He hasn't quite found a way to get into a rhythm just yet.
How would you compare her slow start last year to her slow start this year? Simply that she's been here a year now?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's understandable for a transfer to kind of be feeling her way out and trying to get used to her teammates and that early in the season. This year, I mean, they're an All-American last year, and obviously team captain, and like that connection's already there. So they're, and I mean, they had the whole spring and everything. So that should be there. So that's kind of the weird thing is she's just been really high error for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure. It is interesting. Her role has changed slightly in that Cook's kind of going back and forth between having her play 6 rotations and having Harper Murray. And the last couple matches, it's kind of shifted more towards Murray playing that and Beeson coming out. But she said now that doesn't impact her rhythm at all or anything like that. She didn't want to make any kind of excuse or anything like that. So I think she'll be fine. Obviously, we know how good she is. It's just with the schedule coming up here, they got 3 top 10 teams and another top 15 team to close out the non-conference. She needs to kind of figure it out immediately.
But minus 410, Jacob. I know you're not a gambling guy. That seems exorbitant.
Jacob, like 10 seconds here. How close is the talent between these two teams now?
As close as it's ever been. Creighton's with Nora Sis and Ava Martin at the pins, and Kendra Wade is better. She is an absolute difference maker, one of the best in the country. And anytime you got a player like that gives you a chance.
There we go. Jacob, thank you for answering our phone call.
See you shortly, young Jacob.
Even though it shows up from Utan, we appreciate it.
No problem, guys.
All right.
Coming up next, we got Ryan Clarke, who covers the Oregon Ducks for the Oregonian, to wrap up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here with Ryan Clarke. He covers the Oregon Ducks for the Oregonian on Hurrdat Sports Radio here. Ryan, how are you this morning?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, did we get you up? The whole West Coast thing is going to be screwing us up when we want to talk to our good friends on the West Coast, man. Is everything you won't be hold it against us, will you?
No, not at all. My wife works in construction, and so she gets up pretty early to get out to the job site. So no worries on my end.
All right, here we go.
Good to know. Ryan Clarke is on the board for our show. We appreciate that. Ryan, I want to start off just the expectations for Oregon were really high coming into this year. Obviously, they appeared to be the team best poised to make the transition into the Big Ten. But even before Big Ten play has started, it's been a little iffy so far. What have you seen that you think is real cause for concern versus maybe some things you think they'll be able to figure out?
Yeah, there's no doubt that they haven't lived up to expectations. You know, they're not dropping in those AP polls for no reason or for just some outside perception. You watch these games front to back, they have not been the team so far that people thought they might be. Now, that's not to say they can't turn it around or they don't have the talent to do so. It really centers around the play of the offensive line, frankly. Dylan Gabriel has been efficient these first 2 games. He's not thrown any interceptions. He's done the right things, but he's been pressured a lot. He's hit the turf a lot. He's been sacked more through 2 games than Bo Nix was all of last year. And so, it's not for a lack of personnel along the offensive line. I mean, they return everybody from last year's O-line other than Jackson Powers Johnson at center. But, the composition and the scheme and whatever the approach might be, it just seems that at inopportune times, the offensive line fails to protect Gabriel, and, that bleeds into the rest of the offense. The defense, obviously, has had a few rough moments against Boise State, especially defending Ashton Genty, who's a superstar back. But overall, I think the defense is probably further along in its collective development and has some guys that have experience from around college football.
With Janty, I still laugh that he couldn't even get to their media days because it was held in a casino. So to watch him run, it's like, wow, this guy still got some development to do too. But let me ask you something, Ryan, because I think this identity thing for Oregon is going to be interesting. You really dynamic outside the numbers. I mean, Dylan is Dylan. He's really good in that short passing game, but you want to run the ball. When you watch this offense and you want to help out or complement or accentuate, if you will, the offensive line, how is Oregon playing? What does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, they want to be able to establish the run with Jordan James and Noah Whittington. James in particular being the guy that they view as their quote unquote bell cow back in an offense that tries to pride itself at least in not relying too much on one guy. And I think we have definitely through these first two games not seen enough in that department, but there has been I guess some progression as far as Jordan James being able to break off some chunk plays. We think back to the Boise State game. He had a few 15-yard runs that were taken back by holding penalties. So again, offensive line shooting themselves in the foot and preventing James from doing what he can do. But look, he had like 6 yards per carry in that game. And if they can maintain that and get a better push up front, then that's obviously where their offense starts, because that opens the game up completely for Gabriel to get the ball to playmakers like Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart. And I think first game, Gabriel had a good connection with Tez Johnson. He tied a career high in receptions with 12. And then second game, I think guys like Trayshawn Holden and Evan Stewart, the wide receivers, were able to find a better rhythm with Gabriel, and Gabriel found Stewart obviously on that deep ball, and then Holden on a slant where he was able to break it off. So, it's a work in progress, undoubtedly, with how they want to run their offense. And it obviously circles back to the offensive line, but it also takes time. And Gabriel's been efficient, but he still obviously doesn't have the full breadth of chemistry that he might with these playmakers.
We're talking with Ryan Clarke from the Oregonian. Ryan, what's been the tone of Dan Lanning in his public comments to you guys there locally? Like, how has he reacted toward the slow start to the season?
Yeah, I think it was a bit more terse and a bit more tight, I guess, after the Idaho game versus the Boise State game. I think there was a sense of relief after Boise State, even though there was so much to be frustrated about in that game. I think Dan saw progress in certain areas, even if from the outside it still seemed disappointing to Oregon fans, and the media had plenty of questions for him. I think that Dan Lanning is somebody that has done a great job communicating the values of his program and, reaching out to media on a national scale. But I don't think that he has been terribly, let's say, patient with the criticism in the first couple of weeks. It's been short answers. It's been, asking questions in response to questions. It's been the sort of, backed against the wall type of thing. But, that's not to say Dan Lanning is uncomfortable doing media, or that he hates the local media or anything like that. It's just, he's somebody that he likes to win in every interaction, and sometimes that leads to those sort of situations in interactions with the media. So
I want to go back to you guys defensively, because you do have some fellows, whether it's Birch or Brandon Johnson or Basso. Who's the identity? Who's the face on the defensive side of that ball as conference play will get ramped up, and there's going to have to be a certain amount of toughness that you're able to crank out week after week? Who's kind of the face defensively?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in the Boise State game. It starts with those inside linebackers led by Bassa, who is sort of the heart and soul of this defense, as a guy that's been in the program for years. But Bryce Betcher, too, the future outfielder for the Astros, is as hard-hitting of an inside linebacker as you might find. It's always the dudes with the neck braces behind their pads.
It's just weird to see one of those guys not wearing a single digit. It's like I see 28, and I was like, oh, that's weird in this linebacking core.
Yeah, exactly. And he and Bassa have been big in terms of the physicality. Brandon Johnson, the defensive back from Duke, has had a great start to the season and has been physical. And then, of course, Jabbar Muhammad being the leading defensive back, hard hitting and closes to the ball fast and really athletic and intelligent. Those are going to be the guys that I think, really showcase their ability early on in Big Ten play. And then obviously Derek Harmon coming in as a transfer from Michigan State has had a strong start to the season too. And you mentioned Birch, like all of those guys, they have a ton of talent on the defensive side. And I think that they have come together, like I said before, much quicker than the offense has.
As an Omaha guy that had to coach against him at the high school level, it's nice to see Devin Jackson's evolution. Kind of what's he brought to the table coming off maybe his best performance as a Duck.
Yeah, he's a guy that they're really excited about, his athletic ability, his ability to pursue the ball. He's in a position group with a lot of talent, and his snap count has varied these first couple of weeks, but he's somebody that's going to consistently see the field for Oregon this season for sure, and be part of that linebacker group that, its focus is physicality. Its focus is closing to the ball. And, it's something that Dan Lanning obviously wants to be the identity of this team. And a guy like Devin Jackson being one of the better athletes on that side of the ball, he fits right into that.
Ryan, I'll let you go on this one. Going into the rivalry game with Oregon State, is there anywhere that you look at the Beavers and you say, hey, that might give Oregon some problems?
Yeah, I think that, you saw what Genty did to them last week, and the Beavers don't exactly have anybody on the level of Ashton Genty necessarily, but running the ball the way that Oregon State has successfully done these first two games, albeit against not terribly great competition, but the way they've been able to do that and by committee is something that should definitely, give the Ducks pause and be something that they focus on going into this week. They don't probably have to worry about the Beavers airing it out terribly much. So, stopping the run is going to be the big thing for the Ducks in this game. And then on the other side, continuing to build on what you did in this Boise State game by way of offensive production, and having this be the quote unquote prove it game for the offense and for the offensive line, because people thought that might have been the Boise State game, right? To go and win that one by 2 or 3 touchdowns and show everybody like, hey, this is who we are. This is the team everybody hyped up before the season. And so this Oregon State game is now that opportunity.
It's Ryan Clarke. He covers the Oregon Ducks for the Oregonian. Ryan, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again, guys.
That's, I think, our new West Coast expert. He wakes up early. We like it.
My man said my wife
works construction.
So she was out of the house on the site early.
There we go.
Write that one down.
Get after. I think that's the first here on the on the show.
100%. So now all our degenerate friends are looking at taking Nebraska minus the 1.5 sets.
You're still not even getting plus money on that, though.
No, it's minus 155.
I don't like it.
I don't think the cappers think this one is going to be close.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
How accurate can it be, though?
I know. I do wonder about how accurate some of these lines are for the non-major sports.
Yeah.
Not sure how locked in the handicappers are. We'll find out tomorrow on Hurrdat Sports Radio.